Well, it's great to be here at RAF Coningsby in Lincolnshire, and we're making an incredibly important announcement today. We're one of the few countries in the world that has the capability to build technologically advanced fighter aircraft. That's important because it means we can keep the country safe from the new threats we face. It also adds billions to our economy and supports tens of thousands of jobs across the country, but it's also good for our international reputation. And today's example, today we are partnering with Italy and Japan, two of our closest allies, to build this next generation of aircraft that's going to keep our country safe, and it's something that we can all be very proud of. So the government is always going to try and act fairly and reasonably, and that's why we accepted in full the recommendations of the independent bodies that advise a government on the appropriate levels of pay in the public sector. But what I'm not going to do is ask ordinary families up and down the country to pay an extra £1,000 a year to meet the pay demands of the union bosses. That wouldn't be right and it wouldn't be fair. But what I am going to do is ensure that I minimise the disruption to people's lives and make sure that we protect lives. And that's what we're working on right now with resilience and contingency plans, but also looking at tough new laws which will help us do that. But you're right, we're here at an RAF base today. I had the opportunity to say thank you to some of our armed forces personnel, because many of them are going to miss Christmas, to help us deal with the disruption from strikes, whether that's manning border posts or driving ambulances, and we all owe them an enormous debt of gratitude.
Okay, what new laws, Prime Minister? Do you have any details or timings?
No, we're looking at everything right now at pace, but my priority is going to be to protect lives and to minimise the disruption on people's lives. So the government is trying its best to act reasonably. That's why we've accepted in full the recommendations of independent bodies who make the recommendations to the government about pay settlements in the public sector. And often those pay settlements have been higher than what many people in the private sector are receiving, but the government accepted them in full to be reasonable, to be fair. But it's right now that we also look to minimise the disruption on people's lives, and that's why we're looking at tough new laws.
Okay, you said you're looking at everything there. Well, what are we talking about? It was widely briefed to the press that you could be looking at emergency workers end up like the police being banned from strike action. Yes or no? Is that on the table?
So I'm not going to get into the details now. We're looking at all options, but what I can say is my priority is to always be reasonable, and that's what we're going to continue to do, but also to make sure that we can protect lives and minimise the disruption to people's lives. That's my focus, and that's what we'll work on doing.
Okay, lastly, there's new banking rules being unveiled today to cut red tape introduced after the financial crisis in 2008. There are people out there who are going to say, look, this is a Prime Minister who used to work for investment banks, now making life easier for investment banks. Are you being reckless here?
No, the UK has always had and always will have an incredibly respected and robust system of regulation for the financial services sector. Of course that's the right thing to do, but it's also important to make sure that the industry is competitive. There are actually 1 million people employed in financial services, and they're not just in London, in the city, they're spread across the country in Edinburgh, in Belfast, in Leeds, in Bournemouth, and we want to make sure that we can continue creating jobs across the United Kingdom. Today's reforms will mean that the industry remains competitive, we can create more jobs, but of course this will always be a safe place where consumers will be protected.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister.
Fantastic. Great.